Guys, and thanks so much for joining this lesson. My name is Malaki, and today we're going to talk about idioms, which are really important if you want to get a high score for vocabulary in the Ielts speaking exam. However, many students use these wrongly and actually get a lower score than they should. First, we will look at some tips for using idioms. Then, we will look at some common natural idioms that you can use with many topics. Alright, guys, so let's take a look at 3 tips for using idioms in your IELTS speaking exam. First of all, don't change idioms. Many idioms cannot be changed and will sound unnatural if you change them. So, as a general rule, don't. Tip number 2, you don't need to use idioms in every answer. This is not natural. Native speakers do not do this. Many students believe that the more idioms you use, the higher score you will get for vocabulary, and that is not true. Idioms in this case will sound forced and you will get a lower score. For this reason, 2 or 3 idioms in your speaking test is enough. Finally, guys, idioms should sound natural. And for this reason, I recommend that you only use idioms that you know well. Again, many students here learn hundreds of idioms and they don't know how to use them properly, and as a result, get a lower score for vocabulary rather than a higher score. I would highly recommend that you take a short list of idioms that you can use when talking about many topics, such as the idioms we will look at in this lesson, and know how to use them very well. Okay, so the first idiom we're going to look at today means to agree or have similar opinions to someone. And this idiom is to see eye to eye. For example, I could say, fortunately, my older brother and I see eye to eye, which means fortunately or luckily, my older brother and I agree most of the time or have similar opinions most of the time. Next up, guys, we have an idiom that means to do something quickly, cheaply, and badly, or to take a shortcut. Take a shortcut can sometimes be positive, but in this case, it is negative. And this idiom is to cut corners. For example, I could say, I'm hardworking, I never cut corners. Idiom number 3, guys, we have an idiom that means to feel a little sick. Many students will know this. That idiom is to feel under the weather. For example, I could say, I didn't go to the party because I was feeling under the weather, which means I didn't go to the party because I was feeling a little sick. And idiom number 4, guys, this means to be very expensive. This is to cost an arm and a leg. For example, I could say, I'd like to buy the new iPhone, but it costs an arm and a leg, which means I'd like to buy the new iPhone, but it is very expensive. Next up, guys, we have an idiom which means you cannot judge someone based on their appearance. And this idiom is, you can't judge a book by its cover. For example, I could say, Mark Zuckerberg is one of the richest people in the world, but he dresses like a student. I guess you can't judge a book by its cover. So here, we mean that Mark Zuckerberg is very rich, but you would not know that he's very rich because his appearance does not suggest that he is rich. In this case, guys, the book is the person and the cover is their appearance. Next up, guys, we have to hit the books. And this means to study hard. For example, I could say, I have an exam tomorrow, so I must hit the books today. This is a very useful idiom, especially if you are a student. So if you are a student, take note of this idiom now. And next up, guys, we have an idiom which means to release anger or strong emotion after a stressful time. And this idiom is to blow off steam. For example, I could say playing football is a great way to blow off steam after a long week, which means that playing football is a great way to release anger or strong emotion after a long week at work, which was probably stressful. And finally, guys, we have an idiom which means to be extremely impressed by something. And this idiom is to blow me away. For example, if I'm extremely impressed by a movie, I might say, the movie blew me away. Also, keep in mind, guys, that this idiom is usually used in the past tense, and I recommend you use it in this tense.